A forgotten old ship drifted back to shore, carrying secrets that still breathed. Fishermen were preparing their boats, and children ran along the sand, laughing as they chased the waves. Everything seemed ordinary as it always had, until a shadow appeared on the horizon. At first, it was hard to tell what it was. Some thought it was a cluster of rocks, others a large whale drifting in the current. But as it drew closer, the shape became clear, a massive, ancient ship, unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Its hull was cracked and worn, barnacles clinging to its surface, yet it floated as if it belonged to the water. Slowly, the ship drifted toward the shore, silent and deliberate, as though guided by an unseen hand. People in the village gathered along the cliffs and beach, their murmurs blending with the sound of the waves. "It's a ghost ship," one fisherman whispered, eyes wide with awe. "I thought those were just stories," said another, shaking his head. But everyone felt it. This ship was not like any ordinary vessel. There was something alive about it, something that demanded attention. Captain Alara Voss stood apart from the crowd, her hands resting on the railing of her small observation boat. She had heard the rumors as soon as the morning light hit the cove, an old, forgotten ship drifting back after centuries. Most people would have ignored it, dismissed it as a legend, but Alara had spent her life chasing the unknown. Space had taught her one thing: everything had a purpose, even if it was hidden behind layers of time. Alara adjusted the straps on her utility belt, checking the small devices she carried. Her AI assistant, Navi, hovered beside her, projecting a faint blue light. "Captain," Navi said, its voice calm and precise, "sensors indicate unusual energy readings coming from the vessel. It is unlike anything recorded in our database. Caution is advised." Alara nodded, feeling a shiver run down her spine. "I've dealt with unknown before, Navi. Let's see what secrets this old ship is hiding." By the time she reached the shore, the villagers had stepped back, allowing her passage. The sand was wet and cold beneath her boots, and the wind tugged at her coat. The ship loomed ahead, immense and imposing, with its shadow stretching across the beach. The closer she got, the more details emerged. Its wood seemed alive, pulsating faintly, as if the vessel itself had a heartbeat. Strange markings ran along the sides, glowing softly in patterns that seemed to shift as she moved. Alara took a deep breath and stepped onto the gangplank, which creaked under her weight. The ship's interior was dark, lit only by a soft, bluish glow emanating from panels and wires she could not recognize. The air smelled faintly metallic, mixed with the scent of salt and something organic, almost like a forest after rain. As she walked deeper into the ship, she felt an odd sensation, as if the walls themselves were observing her. Her hand brushed against a panel, and the glow intensified, responding to her touch. Navi's voice was quiet in her ear. "The ship's systems are active, Captain." "It appears to recognize your presence." Alara frowned. "Recognize me? That's impossible. This ship predates human exploration by centuries." Yet the proof was undeniable. Lights traced her movements, corridors shifted slightly as she walked, guiding her further into the vessel. The ship seemed alive, and it was curious about her. Every instinct in her body told her to be careful, but the thrill of discovery surged through her veins. In the central chamber, Alara found a series of consoles covered in alien symbols. She knelt to examine them, brushing away layers of dust and corrosion. Navi projected translations where possible, revealing fragments of information. This ship had been on a research mission, cataloging planets and life forms across the galaxy. Some of these life forms were dangerous, others miraculous. The vessel itself had been designed to contain and study them safely. Alara's eyes widened. "This isn't just an old ship," she said softly. "This is a repository of knowledge of life itself." As she explored further, she noticed movement in the corners of her vision. Shadows that did not belong to her, shapes that shifted unnaturally. She turned quickly, but the corridors were empty. Still, the feeling remained: something was watching, something alive. A soft hum began, vibrating through the floor beneath her feet. The sound was rhythmic, almost like a pulse, and it seemed to grow stronger as she approached the heart of the ship. Panels along the walls emitted waves of light in response, forming patterns that were mesmerizing and alien. Alara realized the ship was communicating, not in words, but in light and vibration. Suddenly, a hatch opened before her, revealing a chamber filled with strange, bioluminescent organisms floating in clear containers. They glowed with colors that shifted and flowed like liquid rainbows. As she watched, patterns of light danced across the chamber walls, forming symbols she could not comprehend. Navi attempted to translate, but even its advanced systems could not fully decipher the communication. "Captain," Navi said, "the organisms are intelligent. They are responding to your presence in real time. They are aware." Alara swallowed hard. "Alive, but in the ship, how is that possible?" The hum grew louder, vibrating through her chest, and she felt a sudden warmth in her hands as if the ship itself acknowledged her touch. It was not threatening. It was curious, examining her, testing her, understanding her. Her heart raced. She had studied alien life, but never anything like this. She realized the ship was not merely a vessel. It was a living archive, a sentient entity that had drifted for centuries, waiting. A sudden sound drew her attention, a low creak, followed by the soft hiss of air escaping. From the shadows, a small, drone-like entity emerged. Its form was fluid, shimmering in the light, and its movements were precise and deliberate. It hovered in front of her, scanning, analyzing. Then it emitted a soft chime, almost musical, and a light pattern formed in the air between them. Navi's voice was tense. "It is attempting to communicate." Alara extended her hand slowly. "I'm not here to harm you," she said softly. The drone paused, then emitted another series of lights. Somehow she understood the intention. It was curious, cautious, and willing to engage. Hours passed as she moved through the ship, documenting everything she could. She found fragments of logs, pieces of technology, and traces of long-lost alien civilizations. Each discovery filled her with awe, but also with a deep sense of responsibility. She realized that humanity had stumbled upon something extraordinary, something that could change their understanding of life and intelligence across the galaxy. Outside, the villagers remained on the cliffs, watching anxiously. The ship was no longer just a relic. It was alive, and it seemed to hum with anticipation. Alara knew that what she discovered today could not be shared recklessly. Some knowledge was too powerful, too dangerous if misunderstood. She needed time to understand the ship, its purpose, and the life it carried. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the ship and the sea, Alara paused in the central chamber. The bioluminescent organisms pulsed softly, and the drone hovered near her shoulder. It was a silent acknowledgement, a fragile trust forming between human and alien intelligence. She stepped back onto the deck, feeling the wind whip against her face. The ship's hull creaked and shifted, as if stretching after centuries of stillness. Alara knew this was only the beginning. The ship had drifted back for a reason, carrying secrets that still breathed, waiting for the right moment, the right person to awaken them. "Tomorrow," she said quietly, "we learn more." And as night fell over Arden's Cove, the ship floated silently in the water, alive and patient, its glowing lights reflecting in the waves. Somewhere deep inside, intelligence stirred, observing, listening, waiting. Humanity had returned to a galaxy that remembered them, and the first chapter of a new journey was just beginning. Alara woke before dawn, the pale light filtering through the ship's hull, making the bioluminescent organisms glow faintly. The ship hummed softly beneath her feet, a steady, almost breathing rhythm. It felt alive, more alive now than yesterday, as if it had sensed her restlessness, waiting for her to return. She adjusted her coat and checked her equipment. Today, she intended to go deeper, to uncover more of the secrets this ancient vessel held. The villagers had left early, unable to sleep after seeing the ghostly glow of the ship through the night. The cove was quiet now, except for the occasional cry of a gull or the slap of waves against the hull. Alara felt a thrill of anticipation. The ship had drifted back into their world for a reason, and she would discover why. As she stepped onto the deck, the drone from yesterday hovered near her shoulder, shimmering softly. It moved fluidly, its form changing like liquid light. Navi's voice, calm but precise, broke the silence. "Captain, the drone appears to be ready to guide you further. Its presence indicates it recognizes your authority on this vessel." Alara nodded. "Let's go." The interior of the ship seemed to respond to her movements. Corridors she had explored yesterday had shifted slightly, opening new paths and closing old ones. The walls pulsed softly, sending waves of light along the hallways. Every step she took seemed to activate the ship's systems in ways she could not understand, as if the vessel was alive and studying her in return. In a central chamber, she found a console that appeared more intact than the others. Symbols lined the edges of the screen, alien and intricate. Navi immediately began translation attempts. These records, Captain, they belong to a research mission conducted centuries ago. The vessel cataloged life forms across multiple star systems, including biological data, planetary conditions, and energy signatures of unknown origin. Alara studied the screen closely. Centuries ago, this ship has been drifting, carrying knowledge no one has seen. And now it's back. Why now? Navi's voice was steady. Unknown. There is a possibility the ship has a self-directed schedule or it reacts to specific triggers in its environment. Your presence could be one such trigger. She frowned, tracing her fingers over the symbols. A faint warmth spread from her touch, and the ship's lights shifted in response, glowing brighter, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The drone hovered near the console, its own lights dancing in patterns that seemed deliberate, intelligent. Curious, Alara whispered. It's trying to communicate. As she continued through the corridors, she found chambers filled with containers holding strange organisms. Some looked like floating crystals, pulsing with light. Others resembled small, jelly-like creatures that moved with purpose within their vessels. Each organism emitted soft glows that shifted when she approached. The patterns were hypnotic, almost musical. Navi's analysis was incomplete. Captain, these organisms, they are intelligent. They respond to stimuli, learning and adapting quickly. Their behavior indicates a level of awareness we have not observed in terrestrial life. Alara felt a sense of awe mixed with caution. This ship, it's more than a vessel. It's a living library preserving knowledge and life. It has survived time itself to bring this to us. A sudden sound made her turn sharply, a low vibration like a distant hum growing closer. From the shadows, another drone emerged, larger than the first. Its form was more structured, yet it shimmered with the same fluidity of light. It moved toward her deliberately, and the first drone flew ahead, hovering in recognition. Alara's heart raced. She reached for her communicator, but Navi spoke first. Captain, the entity is not hostile. It is attempting to interact. The light patterns are similar to a greeting ritual observed in certain intelligent species. The larger drone projected a series of light patterns, forming shapes in the air. Alara held her hand out slowly. I mean no harm, I only wish to understand. The light shifted, pulsated, and then slowly converged, forming a recognizable pattern. Navi translated as best it could. The entity is curious. It seeks knowledge of your species. It identifies you as a human. It trusts you more than others who may enter the vessel. Alara exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and responsibility. Then I'll need to earn that trust completely. Hours passed as she followed the drones deeper into the ship. The corridors shifted, folding into themselves, leading her to a chamber unlike any other. It was vast, with a high ceiling that arched like the inside of a cathedral. The walls pulsed with soft, rhythmic light. At the center, a pedestal held a cylindrical container filled with a glowing, mist-like substance. The air was thick with the scent of something organic, almost sweet. Navi analyzed the container. Captain, this appears to be a biological seed, possibly capable of regenerating life under specific conditions. The energy signatures indicate potential for planetary-scale effects. Alara's eyes widened. Regenerating life? You mean it could heal a planet? Navi nodded. Potentially. However, the seed requires specific environmental parameters, and improper activation could cause catastrophic results. Alara studied the seed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This ship had returned with a purpose, and she was beginning to understand what that purpose might be. Humanity had stumbled upon something extraordinary, something that could change the future of life across the galaxy. A sudden noise interrupted her thoughts, a metallic creak, followed by a hiss of pressurized air. She turned, and the rogue scavengers she had seen on the horizon yesterday had boarded the ship. They moved aggressively, their equipment scanning for technology to claim. Alara felt a surge of protectiveness. She could not allow them to exploit this living archive. Navi, activate defensive protocols, the ship responded instantly. Walls shifted, closing off certain corridors while others opened, creating a labyrinth that separated Alara from the intruders. The drones moved to her side, forming a protective barrier, their lights bright and pulsating. The scavengers' equipment beeped in frustration. It's moving, the ship is alive, one of them shouted. Alara knew the ship was testing them, responding to intent rather than force. She had learned this much already. Humanity had a chance to prove it could be responsible. The scavengers were reckless. The ship would not allow harm to come to life, yet it could neutralize threats if necessary. As she guided the drones and herself deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, she discovered a hidden compartment. Inside was a stasis chamber, perfectly preserved, containing a human-like figure. The figure's appearance was strange, almost adapted for long-term survival in space. Slightly elongated limbs, enhanced features, and eyes that shimmered faintly even through the chamber glass. Navi was stunned. Captain, this person appears to be an envoy preserved by the ship, possibly one of humanity's own left centuries ago. Alara's mind raced. Why, and why now? What is the ship waiting for? The larger drone moved to the chamber, projecting patterns of light across the glass. It was communicating again, indicating the stasis figure's importance. Alara realized the ship had left a test, a challenge to determine if humanity was ready to receive its knowledge. She had been chosen, the drones implied, because she had shown restraint, curiosity, and respect. Outside, the scavengers were still attempting to break through, but the ship's defenses were unyielding. Corridors shifted to block them, and pressured doors sealed off areas they tried to access. The drones intercepted, using non-lethal energy pulses to redirect intruders without causing harm. Alara focused on the stasis chamber. She accessed the ship's control panel, following a sequence indicated by the drones. Slowly, the chamber hissed and unlocked, the figure inside awakening. The envoy's eyes opened, revealing intelligence far beyond what Alara had anticipated. The figure spoke in a soft, melodic voice. "You are human, you have come far." Alara took a cautious step forward. "Who are you? Why were you left here?" The envoy's eyes shimmered. "I am a guardian. The ship preserved me to test the readiness of your species. You have shown understanding and restraint. The ship's secrets are not yours to claim by force, but by wisdom." Alara felt a profound sense of awe. Humanity had stumbled upon something greater than technology or power. It had found a test of morality, of intelligence, and of patience. Hours passed as she and the envoy communicated, guided by the drones. She learned that the ship's mission had been to explore, catalog, and protect. It had encountered civilizations across the galaxy, some benevolent, others destructive. Humanity had been observed but not engaged, until now. The return of the ship was a signal that humanity was ready for its next challenge. As night fell over Arden's Cove, Alara stood on the deck again, looking out at the horizon. The ship pulsed softly beneath her feet, alive and patient, while the drones hovered nearby, waiting. The envoy stood beside her, calm and aware, a living bridge between the past and the future. Alara realized that the journey had only just begun. The ship's secrets were vast, the potential immense. Humanity's role was not to dominate or exploit, but to understand, protect, and learn. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the thrill of discovery. Tomorrow, she would delve deeper. The ship had awakened, its secrets beginning to breathe, and she would uncover them one by one. Humanity had been given a chance, one that must not be wasted. And as the stars reflected in the waves, the ship seemed to hum with quiet approval, alive and watchful, carrying the future of knowledge, life, and humanity itself. The next morning, a heavy fog hung over Arden's Cove, muffling the sound of the waves and cloaking the ancient ship. In a ghostly veil, Captain Alara Voss stepped onto the deck, her boots sinking slightly into the wet sand where the tide had retreated. The ship hummed beneath her feet, almost as if it had grown restless overnight. The drones hovered near her shoulders, shimmering faintly, while the stasis envoy walked beside her, moving with a quiet grace that seemed both human and something more. Alara's mind raced with questions. Yesterday had revealed much, but she knew that the ship's secrets ran deeper than even the envoy could explain. Somewhere inside, knowledge of entire worlds and civilizations lay hidden. She needed to understand it before the scavengers returned or before any accidental activation caused irreversible harm. "Navi," she said, adjusting her coat against the chill, "scan the perimeter. Any signs of the scavengers or other intruders?" "Captain," Navi replied, its calm voice cutting through the fog, "sensors indicate minor energy fluctuations on the outskirts of the cove. Unclear if they are residual or current. Caution is advised." Alara nodded. "We'll proceed, but carefully." The drones moved ahead, leading her through corridors that seemed to shift and pulse in response to their presence. Each chamber held wonders, alien flora that glowed softly, machines that hummed with life, and holographic displays that depicted worlds she had only dreamed of visiting. The ship was more than a vessel. It was a living archive, a repository of civilizations that humanity had never known existed. In one chamber, she found cylindrical containers holding strange seeds and spores. They shimmered in the soft light, pulsating as if alive. Navi attempted to scan them, but the readings were inconsistent. These organisms, it said, are capable of adapting to multiple environments. They contain genetic material from planets across the galaxy. If activated correctly, they could restore life to barren worlds or create unforeseen ecological changes if mismanaged. Alara's brow furrowed. This ship is not just a research vessel, it's a safeguard. It carries the power to shape life itself. The envoy spoke softly beside her. And humanity is being tested. This vessel judges intent as much as capability. Those who approach with greed or recklessness will fail. Those who respect life and knowledge may succeed. Before she could respond, the fog outside shifted. A shadow appeared on the water, small craft approaching the shore. The scavengers had returned, bolder than before, their technology scanning the coast for any sign of the ship's treasures. Alara's heart tightened. She knew they would stop at nothing to seize the vessel. "Prepare for defense," she whispered. The drones surged forward, shimmering in brighter patterns. The ship itself seemed to react, walls shifting to create labyrinthine corridors, sealing off key sections. The scavengers' small crafts landed roughly on the sand, and they began moving toward the ship with hurried steps, shouting at one another as they activated scanners and energy disruptors. Alara moved quickly, following the drones to a control chamber deeper within the vessel. Here, the air was thick with a hum that resonated through her chest. Panels lit up under her touch, and holographic projections displayed intricate star maps, alien ecosystems, and energy signatures of unknown lifeforms. One projection focused on a single planet, its surface barren but dotted with faint traces of energy, an abandoned world waiting to be restored. "This is the seed's potential," Alara murmured. "It could heal this world or destroy it." The envoy nodded. "And it is not for those who seek power alone. Only those who act with wisdom may succeed." Suddenly, the scavengers breached the outer deck. They activated small energy devices, sending pulses that disrupted the ship's outer sensors. Lights flickered, and the corridors vibrated as the vessel reacted defensively. The drones surged forward, creating glowing barriers and emitting pulses that pushed the intruders back without causing permanent harm. Alara realized the ship was not only alive, it was intelligent. It responded to intent, distinguishing between curiosity and greed, respect and recklessness. She felt a mix of awe and determination. Humanity had the chance to prove itself. Guided by the drones, she moved toward a central chamber where the ship's core systems were housed. Here, she found a massive console surrounded by holographic projections. Symbols rotated and shifted, displaying data on energy flow, biological samples, and star maps. The ship seemed to communicate directly through the lights and vibrations. Alara's hand hovered over the console, and the core responded, pulsing with brighter light, almost as if recognizing her presence. The envoy spoke softly. "You must understand the ship's full purpose before it is too late. It carries knowledge not just of life, but of balance. Misuse could bring destruction to worlds, not just one, but many." Alara nodded, determination burning in her eyes. "Then we proceed carefully. We learn, we understand, and we protect." Hours passed as she navigated through the ship, the drones guiding her to chambers that had remained dormant for centuries. In one chamber, she found a collection of alien tools and instruments, some delicate and fragile, others robust and industrial. They seemed designed for studying life in ways humanity could only dream of. As she examined them, she realized the ship was a bridge between species, a vessel meant to preserve knowledge for those capable of stewardship. A sudden vibration shook the floor. Alara turned, and a corridor had shifted, opening a passage she had not noticed before. Inside, a strange energy field pulsed, forming patterns that were almost hypnotic. She stepped closer, feeling a gentle pull, as if the ship itself was guiding her. The drones hovered near her, projecting light patterns in response to the field. Alara placed her hand on the energy, and immediately visions filled her mind. Glimpses of distant worlds, alien civilizations, and ecosystems teeming with life. She saw planets restored, barren worlds transformed, and creatures adapting in ways that defied human understanding. The ship was showing her its purpose, its potential, and the responsibility that came with it. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the vessel. The scavengers had breached another section, their devices attempting to access the ship's core. Lights flashed red, and the corridors shifted violently, creating barriers and closing exits. The drones responded instantly, forming protective walls and directing Alara to a secure chamber. Inside, she found the stasis envoy waiting. "They are persistent," it said, its voice calm but firm. "But the ship protects life first. It will not allow them to succeed through force." Alara felt a surge of relief. The ship had chosen her, the envoy, and the drones as guardians. It responded to intent, and human greed would not prevail here, yet she knew this was only the beginning. The scavengers would continue to test them, pushing the vessel and its guardians to the limit. She accessed the central console, attempting to activate a deeper layer of the ship's knowledge. Symbols rotated and shifted, forming new patterns as if the vessel were testing her understanding. Her mind worked quickly, recognizing patterns and relationships between the alien data. The core pulsed in response, confirming partial access. "What do you see?" the envoy asked. Alara took a deep breath. "A network, a system that connects life across worlds. This ship doesn't just study life, it maintains balance. It can restore, protect, and preserve, but only if guided by those who understand responsibility." The envoy nodded. "Then humanity is being tested, and you have shown potential, but understanding is only the first step. Action comes next." Outside, the scavengers continued their attempts, but the ship's defenses were relentless. Corridors shifted, barriers formed, and the drones intercepted every approach. The vessel was alive, and it chose not to harm but to protect. Alara realized something profound. This was the true test. Humanity was not being judged by strength or technology, but by ethics, intelligence, and restraint. The scavengers represented failure, the misuse of curiosity for greed. She and the envoy represented potential, the responsible stewardship of knowledge and life. As night fell over Arden's Cove, the fog lifted slightly, revealing the ship's glowing hull against the dark water. Alara stood on the deck, watching the stars reflect in the waves. The vessel hummed beneath her feet, alive and aware, waiting for the next step. The envoy spoke softly. "Tomorrow you will be given a choice. To activate the ship's systems fully, you must demonstrate understanding and wisdom. One mistake, one act of greed, and the opportunity will be lost." Alara nodded, determination in her eyes. "Then we prepare. We learn and we protect what must be protected." The drones pulsed softly, hovering near her, their light reflecting in her eyes. The ship seemed to respond, its rhythm steady and calm. Somewhere deep within, intelligence stirred, observing and waiting. Humanity's role was no longer passive. It was active, responsible, and capable of great things, but only if guided by understanding. Hours later, she returned to the central chamber, reviewing every discovery, every interaction with the drones, and every glimpse of the ship's potential. Each step brought new understanding. Each moment reinforced the gravity of responsibility. The ship was a living test, and humanity's future depended on passing it. Alara knew that tomorrow would bring the next challenge. She would face choices that could change the course of life on distant worlds. But she also knew she was not alone. The envoy, the drones, and the ship itself were allies, guiding her toward a future that humanity had never dared to imagine. As the first light of dawn touched Arden's Cove, Alara stood once more on the deck, feeling the gentle pulse of the ship beneath her feet. It was alive, aware, and patient. Its secrets were vast, but she had earned the trust to learn them. The scavengers were persistent, but they would not prevail. The ship had chosen its guardians carefully. And in the quiet moments before the sun rose fully, Alara understood the truth. The ship had returned not just to be discovered, but to be understood. Humanity's test was far from over, but the first steps had been taken. The ship's secrets were alive, breathing, and waiting for those who could respect them. The journey was only beginning, and the universe held its breath. Dawn broke slowly over Arden's Cove, casting a soft golden light across the waves. The ancient ship rested in the shallow waters near the shore, its hull still pulsating with quiet energy. Captain Alara Voss stood on the deck, feeling the hum of the ship beneath her feet. It was a gentle, steady rhythm, like a heartbeat, alive and aware. The stasis envoy walked beside her, its movements calm and precise, while the drones hovered nearby, their light flickering softly as if preparing for what was to come. Ilara took a deep breath, her mind focused on the challenge ahead. Yesterday had revealed much, but today would be the true test. The ship had brought her here for a reason, and it was time to understand what that reason was. She glanced at the envoy, who nodded slightly, a silent affirmation that they were ready. "Let's begin," Ilara said, her voice steady. Navi's voice responded in her ear. "Captain, sensors indicate that the ship's core systems are now fully accessible. You are authorized to initiate the activation sequence, but caution is advised. The process will test both knowledge and judgment." Ilara moved to the central chamber, where the core console glowed with an intensity she had never seen before. Symbols rotated in intricate patterns, forming paths that seemed impossible to follow. She studied them carefully, remembering the lessons of the past days, the need for patience, observation, and understanding. Every step mattered. The drones moved around her in a protective formation, their light patterns responding to the console's energy. The envoy stepped closer, observing silently. Ilara reached out, placing her hands on the controls. Immediately, the chamber responded. Holographic projections erupted into life, showing planets, stars, and ecosystems she had never imagined. She could see barren worlds, thriving ecosystems, and everything in between. The ship was revealing its knowledge, its potential, and the responsibility that came with it. Navi spoke quietly. "Captain, the activation sequence is not merely technical. It requires ethical and strategic choices. Every decision you make will have consequences across multiple worlds." Ilara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. She began the sequence, carefully choosing options that reflected caution and respect. The ship responded positively, its lights pulsing in harmony with her actions. It was as if the vessel itself approved of her decisions, recognizing her understanding and restraint. Suddenly, alarms blared. The scavengers had found a way back into the cove. They had activated devices designed to disable the ship's outer defenses, and their energy disruptors sent waves of interference through the hull. The drones surged forward, creating protective barriers and redirecting the intruders without causing permanent harm. Ilara's heart pounded. The ship had chosen her, but the world outside had not. She knew that one wrong move could endanger everything she had worked for. She focused on the core, guiding the activation sequence with steady hands and a clear mind. The ship's energy responded to her choices, forming patterns of light that reached across the entire vessel. The envoy spoke softly. "This is the final test. The scavengers represent temptation and greed. You must complete the sequence without succumbing to haste or fear. Only then will the ship's secrets be fully entrusted to humanity." Ilara took a deep breath and continued. Each step required careful judgment. She selected environmental parameters for the biological seeds, adjusted energy flows to stabilize dormant ecosystems, and confirmed protocols to preserve life without causing harm. The holographic projections shifted in response, showing the potential outcomes of her choices. Some worlds were restored, others remained untouched, waiting for careful stewardship. Outside, the scavengers grew impatient. They activated larger devices, sending powerful energy pulses toward the ship. The drones intercepted, creating barriers of light and energy, redirecting the intruders back toward the shore. The ship itself seemed to move subtly, its hull adjusting to the waves, positioning itself to protect the central core. Ilara focused on the task at hand. She knew that the ship's trust was earned not by force, but by wisdom. Every decision she made had to reflect responsibility, foresight, and respect for life. The sequences continued, hour after hour, until finally the core's energy stabilized. The holographic projections pulsed in unison, forming a single, brilliant pattern that stretched across the chamber. The ship had accepted her decisions, and in that moment, a sense of calm washed over her. The drones hovered near her, their lights soft and approving. The envoy stepped closer, its voice filled with quiet pride. "You have succeeded. The ship recognizes your understanding, restraint, and wisdom. Humanity has been given a chance." Ilara felt a sense of awe and relief. The ship's secrets were no longer distant mysteries. They were now a responsibility entrusted to her. She realized that humanity had been tested not for power, but for its ability to respect and preserve life. The vessel's mission was complete, and she had proven worthy. The scavengers on the shore were still trying to force their way in, but the ship's defenses were now fully active. Corridors shifted to block their access, and energy barriers repelled their devices without harming life. The vessel had demonstrated its intelligence, its ability to judge intent, and its commitment to protecting knowledge and life. Alara turned to the envoy. "What happens now?" The envoy's eyes shimmered faintly. "Now you guide humanity. The ship's knowledge is vast. It contains information on ecosystems, technology, and civilizations across the galaxy. But it is not a tool to be used lightly. You must teach, protect, and understand. The ship will aid those who are ready, and it will wait for those who are not." Alara nodded, feeling the weight of the responsibility settle on her shoulders. She knew that this was only the beginning. The ship's secrets were vast, and humanity's potential was now intertwined with the vessel's purpose. The knowledge of life, balance, and creation was theirs to safeguard. Hours later, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Alara stood on the deck, looking out at the horizon. The drones hovered nearby, their light reflecting in her eyes while the envoy watched silently. The ship pulsed beneath her feet, alive and aware, a living testament to the wisdom it had tested. Outside, the scavengers retreated, unable to breach the vessel's defenses. Their greed had been contained, and the ship had made its choice clear. Knowledge and life were not for the reckless. Only those who understood responsibility could access its power. Alara felt a sense of pride, not in herself, but in humanity. For the first time, she realized that humans were capable of wisdom and restraint, capable of rising to challenges that tested more than strength or intelligence. They could protect, preserve, and learn from the galaxy, not merely exploit it. She walked through the ship's corridors, guided by the drones and the envoy, observing the chambers filled with life and knowledge. Alien organisms pulsed softly, their glow a testament to the ship's care. Holographic projections displayed ecosystems, star systems, and civilizations, each preserved with precision and respect. The vessel was a living archive, a bridge between species and time, and humanity had been entrusted to safeguard it. In the central chamber, she activated the final interface, allowing the envoy to access the ship fully. The stasis figure moved with grace, its knowledge now integrated with the vessel's systems. Together, they formed a partnership, human and alien intelligence working in harmony to protect life and knowledge across the galaxy. Alara stood back, feeling the hum of the ship resonate through her body. It was a steady, reassuring rhythm, a heartbeat that reflected both the vessel's awareness and humanity's responsibility. The drones pulsed around her, their light patterns forming shapes that symbolized trust, cooperation, and understanding. The envoy spoke again, its voice calm and melodic. "The test is complete. The ship's secrets are yours to guide wisely. Remember, knowledge without responsibility is dangerous. Humanity has earned the chance to rise, but only through respect and understanding will it succeed." Alara nodded, her resolve firm. She understood now that the ship had not merely returned, it had chosen her to guide humanity, to teach them the value of life, knowledge, and balance. The vessel's presence was a reminder that the universe was vast, alive, and attentive. Humanity's actions mattered. As night fell over Arden's Cove, the ship's glow illuminated the water, casting shimmering reflections across the waves. Alara stood on the deck, gazing at the stars. The drones hovered nearby, and the envoy walked silently beside her. The ship pulsed softly beneath them, alive and patient, carrying the knowledge of worlds, the preservation of life, and the trust of civilizations long gone. Alara realized that this was not the end, but the beginning of a new chapter. Humanity had been given a chance to learn, to grow, and to rise to the responsibility the universe had entrusted to them. The ship had returned not merely to be discovered, but to be understood, respected, and protected. She looked out at the horizon, feeling the pulse of the ship through her feet, and whispered, "We will not fail." And as the waves lapped gently against the hull, the ship remained alive, its secrets breathing quietly, waiting patiently, carrying the hope of humanity and the wisdom of the galaxy into the night. A forgotten old ship drifted back to shore, carrying secrets that still breathed.